Ben, welcome to the John Fredericks Show.
Good morning, John.
Don't you think that ad is going to change everything?
Is that really an ad?
No, that's not really an ad, but it's kind of the ad because it was Glenn Sturdivant and his family eating ice cream at the local ice cream store. So we called it the Mr. Softy ad, but it kept me on the edge of my seat. I mean, I was going to vote, I thought Republicans were dead, but now that everybody saw that ice cream ad, forget it. The Republicans are going to win everything plus ice cream. How can you fight with ice cream, Glenn? The next thing they're going to come out with is apple pie. You have an apple pie and ice cream ad. What do you think?
Look, I think that the Sturdivant race is a toss-up. I know that there's a lot of people who think he's finished, but this is a district where the older voters are extremely Republican, and the older voters vote in off-year elections. So I actually think this is going to be highly competitive.
All right, so you think that's going to be competitive. I'm going to get back to Virginia in a minute, but I want to start with a couple other things with Ben Tribbett here on the John Fredericks Show and the John Fredericks Show app. Ben, number one, Justin Fairfax on Friday, major lawsuit, $400 million, suing CBS News and the executives at CBS, saying that basically the whole thing was concocted. It was a political hit job by LeVar Stoney. They name him in the suit. And Fairfax telling me he's going to run for governor and he's going to win, and he thinks he's going to win this lawsuit. What say you?
I'm not an attorney, obviously, but I have spoken to some attorneys, all of whom have the unanimous view of, after reading Justin's suit, that it's a joke, it's not a serious lawsuit, and that it has absolutely no chance of being successful.
Well, we had Joe Morrissey on the other day. He's a pretty big lawyer, friend of ours, my best friend. Everybody knows that, BFF. And Joe said that they were going to win the suit.
Well, look, Joe's absolutely wrong. The reality is you can't sue a news agency for reporting news. Is a First Amendment issue with that. This obviously is a situation where people are going to report these allegations when they are made, and whether it is internet media, news media, whatever, they have absolutely a First Amendment right to report the news. I think from what I've been told about what's in the lawsuit, I haven't had time to read it yet. Justin should be suing LeVar, and that the things that are alleged in the lawsuit could be something that is something that a court would review. I think what Joe Morrissey has said, and I thought, was that, he should be suing LeVar in Richmond Circuit Court. Mm-hmm. Because LeVar doesn't have a First Amendment right to report. LeVar's a public official. Mm-hmm. But whether, it is news media or individuals, sharing things on social media, all of that is considered First Amendment for public officials, the right of people to do that. And so long as they're not creating the story, you can't sue them. And look, Justin is running into the same problem here that Devin Nunes is running into. I don't know where people are thinking this is possible from, but there has never been a successful case that allows people to sue the news media for reporting the news.
What does this do to Fairfax's political future? I mean, he's going to run for governor. He's telling me he's going to beat McAuliffe. Based on this, the fact that he's been falsely accused. What is your analysis of that, Ben Tribbett?
Yeah, well, I think that Jennifer McClellan and Jennifer Carroll Foy and some others who are running, maybe Mark Herring, are probably all counting on Justin to run and really beat up McAuliffe and maybe be the person who takes McAuliffe out. In terms of Justin's ability to be successful himself, I don't see that happening right now. That having been said, the primary for governor is a long way out. And, I was talking to someone this weekend about how, in a crowded field where you only have to get maybe 25% of the vote to win. I wouldn't count Justin out. It's just that, these charges are so odious. His behavior after the charges was so odious. I just really struggle to see how he could possibly be the Democratic nominee and how anyone could vote for him to go up against a Republican, because he's just going to get absolutely trounced in a general election.
Well, good analysis. There is a pathway for him at 25%, no question about it. And I think he's going to play the card that he's been wrongly accused, didn't get due process, and really try to get a high percentage of the African-American vote as a result of that. I don't think McClellan gets in the race if McAuliffe is in, because he's going to pick up the phone and jawbone her out. Delegate Foy, on the other hand, has told everybody she's going to run regardless of what McAuliffe or anybody else says. So you've got at least that one. We'll see how it plays out. We're with Ben Tribbett. He is the #1 Democratic political consultant in Virginia, and he's also noted nationally, won a bunch of races this past cycle in Orange County, where the Orange County Democrats were able to sweep out Republicans in longstanding GOP districts there. So if you're a Democrat and you want to win, call 1-800-BEN-TRIBBETT, and he's probably going to win for you. That's what I would do if I were you and I was a Democrat running for anything. Ben, let's get to the Redskins. 0-2 start. Didn't look good yesterday against Dallas at all. I thought they'd go 9-7. It's going to be a tough prediction now to hold for me. What's going on with the Redskins?
Well, I think that the Redskins need to be starting Dwayne Haskins. I don't think that should be now week 3. I don't think you open him up against the Bears. But I think that he needs to be the starting quarterback. The Redskins are close, but they're at the same time they're not close. The roster is just too thin. Every time there's an injury, you have these no names that are coming in to play. That yesterday our secondary was a disaster,
Yeah.
And you could see it as during the game what a complete disaster it was.
Right.
So I think we need to see Haskins come in as the starting quarterback. And I think we need to have some roster overhauls in the off season. One of the worst things you can do in the NFL is be a middling team. That's what the Redskins have been. It's actually better to be a bad team and get a good draft pick than to be a middling team. And maybe it's a year to throw it away and just get that good draft pick and move on.
Well, there's no question, as a Tennessee Titans fan, 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, do you no good. And as far as the Titans are concerned, once again, going into another game with another Indianapolis team, we thought, wow, maybe maybe this is the season we're going to rule. Same old story. We lose at home to Indianapolis. Doesn't matter who their quarterback is. We find a way to lose. So, look, I'm sharing your pain today. I get it. But I agree with you. I think after the Bears game, you got to start Haskins just to add some excitement. I mean, the offense now is just it's a sleep fest. And at least with Haskins in there, you get some excitement. Maybe you win a couple games and get hot. But you're right. I mean, 8-8, just in the NFL, it's a terrible spot to be. No question about it. Ben, let's move on to Virginia politics. Everybody right now that I've talked to, except Ben Tribbett, figuring that the Senate is gone for the Republicans. The Dick Black seat they can't win. Everybody's telling me Sturtevant's behind by 10, 12 more to the Democratic candidate. But coming on the beginning of the show, you said it might be a little closer than that. It could be a toss-up. Why?
Well, I think the Sturtevant seat is a toss-up. I think the chances of the Democrats taking the Senate are probably about 95% right now, and that's because the Bell seat in Northern Virginia is certainly not a toss-up.
Yeah, it's
and
gone.
I think John Bell's taken a very commanding lead there, and that's the only seat the Democrats need for control.
Right. So even if they get with that, we'll put them at 20. 20, obviously they like to get 21 or 22, but I've talked to very few people in your party that think that Sturtevant is going to win that race. I've heard them tell me that their Hashem's internal polls are plus 10, 12. Some said 15. True or false?
Yeah, I think there's been some really good internal polling for Democrats all over the state this summer. But there was great internal polling for many candidates over the years that ultimately were not successful over the summer. And I think that in that seat, what we know is that the Republicans are older, the Democrats are the younger families moving in, and that's both in the city of Richmond and in Chesterfield. And so, older voters vote in the off-year elections. And if you have a typical off-year election turnout, Sturtevant has a very good chance of winning. If you see Democratic enthusiasm up, because especially with what's happened the last 2 years because of the Trump presidency, Democrats have been engaged in voting. It's going to be very hard for Sturtevant. But I would not assume that people are going to come vote that have never voted in an off-year election until you see it happening.
Right.
I think you really got to watch it happen.
All right, so let's get to the House. I'm predicting right now the Senate in Dem hands, 21-9. I think Kiggins is going to win in Virginia Beach, and I think Donovan wins. So I think it's right now 21-19 Dem. Worst case they can possibly have is a tie, which gives them control either way. So they're in pretty good shape. Let's get to the House, where I don't think anybody can predict this, Ben. There's, 10 seats now that are just toss-ups, and no one knows, right, really what is going to happen. Last time we talked, you said 52-48 Republicans. How do you stand now?
So, the 52-48 number came from where we had the ratings currently, which was 47 Republicans, 43 Democrats, and 10 toss-ups. Since then, over the summer, updated those. Now currently have it at 47 Democrats, which is up 4, and 46 Republicans, which is down 1. So I think the House is now legitimately a complete toss-up. There's 7 toss-up races, and it's a 47-46 that's going into determine outcome.
What are some of the hottest ones that are going to determine who controls the House, Ben?
Sure. So there's 2 open seats from the 2 Democratic delegates that are running for the Senate, Deborah Rodman's seat and Cheryl Turpin's seat, one in Henrico, one in Virginia Beach. There's the Nick Frieda seat in Culpeper, which is a toss-up, not because it is politically a toss-up, but because we just don't know if Nick is going to be able to get the message out for people to actually write in his name or not. It's unprecedented in Virginia for a delegate to do such a thing. And while he's going to be well-funded, and we're going to see those reports today, I just call that a toss-up because we just don't know what's going to happen there when you have to run as a write-in. The open seat in the Fredericksburg area where Bob Thomas was defeated in the primary, I think that is a toss-up. So the other one is in Northern Virginia, Lee Carter's seat. Republicans seem to think, even though that seat is more Democratic than some of the others that Democrats hold, that they have a shot at it because of Lee being further to the left of the other Democrats. And I think it's a test of that. I don't know if that's correct or not. In 2017, ideology really didn't matter, but we'll see in 2019 if it does.
Well, I tell you what, if you're Lee Carter and you're a sitting House of Delegates member and you send the Facebook post out at 4 a.m. defending Antifa, how do you get reelected?
Yeah, I think that in 2017, what happened was, Democrats were so angry with the president, they really didn't care who was the Democratic candidate on their ballot. And you saw that in the districts that, the candidates that raised lots of money and had lots of professional experience and all those credentials that you would expect normally from a candidate performed about the same as people that were running for the first time and, really didn't have much of a background to run and just sort of put their name on the ballot. So, 2019, we'll see if that pattern holds again. I also think, like in Lee Carter's case, when we're talking specifically about him, he is an incumbent. He is now have name ID from the last 2 years of being an incumbent, And frankly, the world has not crashed and burned and ended because Manassas had a socialist in the General Assembly. And so it's always hard to beat an incumbent. It's going to be hard for Ian Lovejoy to point to the voters as to a reason to fire him of something he has done wrong. A lot of times rhetoric isn't what kills you. It's something when you cast a vote. Mm-hmm. So this is a real toss-up race because we just don't know how voters are going to react to it. And I think that, John, the Antifa, the ideology stuff, I think that is much more minor and of a vulnerability for Carter than the fact that, like, he sent around pictures of his penis to people and said online that he sent around that. Because I feel like that is going to have a much larger impact on older voters that are not going to like that than some votes he cast.
All right, so you think the penis picture scandal is going to hurt Lee Carter more than votes or the fact that he defended Antifa? Why am I hung up on that?
Well, then I think Republican base voters will be completely worked up on the defense of Antifa, right? But Republican base voters are not a majority in that district. So I have no doubt that, like, the 40% that are very strong Republicans there will be fired up by that. Also, John, I actually just got a text message from Chris Saxman,
yes,
who pointed out that there was one write-in that was successful in the past. I'd forgotten about this. Jackie Stump in Southwest Virginia during the union strike was able to unseat a state delegate in Southwest Virginia. That obviously was a unique situation in that almost the entire district was union families. The incumbent delegate was the son of a judge who was trying to force the strike to end. But it is possible, and that's why I call the Freedom race a toss-up. It is possible, hypothetically, to get the write-ins. I just think it's very difficult to get people that focused to understand how to do that. And while there's a 20-point Republican margin in that district of error to pull it off within, I just feel like it's going to end up very tight.
I don't. I think when you have $500,000 to spend, you're going to figure out how to get people enthusiastically to go and write your name in a competitive situation. So I think he gets 53, 54%. I don't think it's going to be close. If he had $20,000, I say was in trouble. He's got $500,000. That's a lot of money in that district. And, I think what Frias is going to do is try to turn lemons into lemonade, blanket the area with ads of all kinds, whether it be digital, radio, TV, whatever he can find, mailers. He's going to blanket the district. And if he does win that as a write-in, he thinks that's going to catapult him to be the favorite, to be the nominee running for Congress against Abigail Spanberger. So that's kind of the Fridas, plan of action. And because he got $500,000, I just don't think that's going to be close in that district. Coupled with the fact that the Democratic candidate there is getting no money, no traction, nobody's heard of her. So I don't see how that's even close. But I get what you're saying. The write-in is a big deal. Saxman texted me, and he said he's just reserved an 800 number for Ben Tribbett called 1-800-WIN-WITH-BEN. 1-800-WIN-W-BEN. So you should have recorded message on there that says, if you want to be elected as a Democrat, call Ben, 1-800-WIN-WITH-BEN. And you can send your consulting check to Chris Saxman for that. Ben Tribbett, only got a minute. Got to get to presidential politics debate Monday, only 10 on the stage. Right now, today, who does Ben Tribbett predict is going to be the Democratic nominee and why?
I think Elizabeth Warren right now is the favorite. I think that she's a lot of people's second choice. She's also become, obviously, a number of people's first choice. And, as the field winnows, she has the best path. But I still think there's a very good chance this could be a convention fight and that we may not have a nominee emerge during the primary season. But I think Elizabeth Warren has the best path to that. And, John, if we can just go back really quickly, I just would point out, if you're correct that Nick Friedis is going to win by 6 or 7 points, in an off-year turnout in that district, that's still less than 1,000 votes, which is why I think it's so unpredictable. Because when we talk about points, points really matter when you're talking congressional races, right? Because points are thousands and thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of votes. In a delegate race, in that type of district, you have to win by 9 or 10 points in order to break 1,000-vote victory. And if you can't break 1,000-vote margin, it's very hard to predict that when you're not on the ground there of, how that few number of people are going to react to information.
Good point. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll predict one race today, and then get your take on it, and then we're out of time. I predict, what's his name? Clint Ferguson, I think is his name, is going to be Chris Jones. I really don't see how Jones wins this district. I really don't. People, I don't see that. I don't even think that's going to be close. I think Jones is going to go down big, and that's my one prediction. I also think Kirk Cox wins his seat, but I see no